So, in 1118 A.D., Hugh de Payenne, the Champagne region of France, born legate of the Holy See and Archbishop of Lyons, France, along with Baldwin II, King of Jerusalem, the Patriarch of the Jerusalem Church, and Pope Paschal II, successor to Urban II, with 4 other noblemen and clerics from France and one, Stephen Harding, originally from England, founded the Pauvres Chevaliers du Temple, or Poor Knights of the Temple, stationed in a portion of Baldwin II's royal palace adjacent to the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. A decade later, in 1128, Hugh de Payens attended the Council of Troyes and, on behalf of the Templars, officially adopted the rule of Saint Benedict as reformed by the Cistercians, and added to the Cistercian white robe a red cross. The original 9 founders of the Knights Templar were, likely, as follows. 1. Hugh de Payens, one of the 6 drafters of their mission. 2. St. Robert, then an abbot of the monastery of Molesme, seeking to effect Cistercian reforms in it and other monasteries emanating as satellites around Cluny, France. 3. Viscount Reynald of Beaune, who retired when the order reached 21 members, to become a monk at Citeaux in the Diocese of Chalon, France. 4. Then Bishop Gautier of the Chalon Diocese. 5. An early member, the Prior Alberic of Citeaux, elected to replace St. Robert, but whom died in 1109. 6 and 7. John and Elboldi, 2 monks sent as delegates to Pope Paschal II, immediately following his secession after Urban II, to seek protection for their Cistercian reforms from the Apostolic See. 8. Pope Paschal II himself. And 9. The aforementioned Stephen Harding, who was also a reformer at Molesme, and sought to expand Cistercianism. It seems likely that it was Stephen Harding, seeing the militarization into a chivalric order of the Hospitallers in Jerusalem, whom convinced Hugh de Payens to form the Knights Templar as a chivalric militia loyal to the Cistercian monastic order. Researcher Lawrence Gardner is quoted from his work, Bloodline of the Holy Grail, saying, "The original Order of Zion was established so that eligible Muslims, Jews, and others could be allied to the Christian order that became the Knights Templar. This Christian order would have been Cistercianism, and these others were, according to Gardner, the Desposanai, or descendants of the royal bloodline of Jesus Christ. The 6 chartering Templars were all land-owning comtes, or counts, of Desposanai descent through the Merovingian rulers of France. Although the Templars may have originally been tasked with protection of Christian pilgrims in the Holy Land from marauding brigand Bedouin tribes, in particular the growing threat of the Ismaili assassin sect, the papacy had an ulterior motive in militarizing and deploying abroad French and other European noblemen, and that was to weaken these nobles' hold over their serfs so as to begin the Inquisition in France, to purge the Albigensian heresy of Catharism that was supposedly brought back to France by these now world-traveled noblemen when they returned from their mandatory military deployments in the Middle East. In short, It appears as though the papacy always intended to reserve for later exercise the option to betray the Order of Knights Templar once they became too powerful, which, of course, eventually they did. Using the Albigensian heresy to describe the Neo-Manichaean beliefs of the Merovingian despoznai, which had grown in popularity from the small region around Toulouse since the Synod of Orleans in 1022 AD, until it had become an accepted extra-Christian religion under Toulouse Count Raymond VI, 1194 to 1222. The Catholic papacy, under Pope Innocent III, who ascended in 1198, began an aggressive campaign of violent invasions in Béziers and Carcassonne in 1209, pinning Raymond VI himself, then turned by the Inquisition's torture methods, against his former allies, including Roger, Viscount of Béziers. It was at the siege of Béziers that the papal legate to the mission gave the now infamous command, "Slay all, God will know his own." On Friday, October 13th, 1307, all the Knights Templar in France were rounded up and imprisoned by order of French King Philip IV the Fair, 1268 to 1314, using the ecclesiastical inquisitors sent to him to purge regional heresies by sympathetic French Pope Clement V. The Knights Templar were accused of a wide variety of blasphemies being performed during their secret initiation ritual, including spitting on the crucifix, denying the divinity of Christ, practicing sodomy, and worshipping a graven idol, a three-faced icon claimed to symbolize Baphomet, presumably a dialectically derived corruption of the proper name Muhammad, the prophet of Islam, peace be upon him. After a series of first political and then religious mock trials, the concurrent Grand Master of the Knights Templar, Jacques de Molay, was burned at the stake and, according to some later accounts, pronounced a curse on Pope Clement V and King Philip IV, calling them both to appear before the tribunal of God within the year. And within the next year, both the Pope and the King had died.